Wow, could this really be over? I hope so. I hope so. What a disgusting mess.
As a witness. I'll explain in a minute. Now, Republicans likely need just one more vote, put an end to the madness once and for all. And to be honest, well, it could come from either side of the aisle. There's now high anxiety inside the Democratic Party. Tonight, FoxNews.com reporting that any future witness agreement would be subject to a package deal. In other words, Bolton gets hauled in. We'll tell you why that's no longer necessary in a minute. So will two key members of, let's say, the Biden syndicate. Quid pro quo Joe, zero experience Hunter. And as we have documented so many times, at a bare minimum, there's a serious appearance of impropriety. We went through all the laws that, well, seem to fit in this case with the Bidens, all felonies. The president, remember, has a sworn constitutional duty to faithfully execute the laws of this land, and that's why he was rightly concerned not only about Ukrainian election interference, separate and apart from Russian interference, which Devin Nunes warned about, but he's also rightly concerned about quid and pro and quo Joe, and not say, oh, like Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, who happens to be leading in both Iowa and New Hampshire. Let me sum it up for you one more time. This thing's over. It's finished. Everything else will be a mere formality. Now, we know how this will end. The president will be acquitted. And thankfully, in 279 days, we will have an election in this country. As a matter of fact, we have now actually heard from what the Democrats thought would be their latest star witness. Moments ago, the president tweeted out these words, "Game over." Along with the words, he sent out a video, 2019, John Bolton praising the president's phone call, yes, the one in question, with Ukraine. Let's take a look.
We'll be meeting President Zelensky. He and President Trump have already spoken twice. President called to congratulate President Zelensky on his election and then on his success in the parliamentary election. They were very warm and cordial calls. We're hoping that they'll be able to meet in Warsaw and have a few minutes together because the success of Ukraine, maintaining its freedom, its system of representative government, a free market economy free of corruption, and dealing with the problems of the Donbass and the Crimea are high priorities here, obviously, but high priorities for the United States as well.
Sounds almost verbatim the president's description of the call, what we all read with the transcript. Did you hear any quid or pros or quos like Joe there? Did you hear any dire warnings about misconduct or abuse of power? Did you hear any complaints or consternation at all? The answer is no. Now that brings me to Mitt Romney tonight. As I said last night, I fought hard, as many of you did. He would have been the better candidate, and I think we were proven right if he won his election in 2012. I defended him against the left smears. I did it because it was the right thing to do. He was the better candidate. They called him a racist. They called him a sexist. They called him a misogynist. They accused him of abusing animals even. Lies, smears, and even cutting some kid's hair. Mitt Romney said earlier in the week that he would likely want to hear from John Bolton. Well, we have now heard everything we needed to hear from John Bolton in his own words. And even if the president had privately said that he wanted Ukraine to do A or B or C for the aid, there are four facts, Jim Jordan reminds us every time. They'll never change. No linkage between aid and investigations during the phone call. Aid was never mentioned during the phone call, but the issue of corruption was brought up. The president was clearly concerned. It was top of mind. We know President Zelensky repeatedly and President Trump have both denied ever any pressure in any way, shape, manner, or form. No one in Ukraine even knew there was a temporary pause on aid at the time of the call or long after the call. And Ukraine, here's the important part. Did they do anything? Did they take any action to get the aid released? None. Zero. Nothing. Did they announce they would do something? Nothing. They announced nothing, never, ever, and they still got the money. So even if the president thought it, even if he said it, maybe thinking about it, doesn't matter. It's what he did. Senator Romney, I say to you tonight, it is time for you to put aside what is clearly a personal disdain, dislike for the president, and you need to do this for the sake of the country and, frankly, for your sworn duty to the Constitution of the United States. Now, forget about your opinions about...
So he really gets to have Romney, and he does. Romney needs to do what's right for the people. Get past his own grudges against the president, even if it involves your own family.
About the president, they're irrelevant. You need that document right there. You need to think about your constitutional role and duty as a senator. Remember, the House and the Constitution has the sole power to impeach a president. They did it. Now they presented their very pathetically weak case. Okay, now you're asking 16 hours worth of questions. Your duty, the sole role of the Senate, is to examine the evidence, render a verdict. Now you just heard from John Bolton. And keep in mind, Senator Romney, I know you represent the great state of Utah. Take a look at this survey put together by, well, he's one of the few people. I've known Matt Towery since the Gingrich polling years. And Matt Towery was one of the few people that said, it's on video, I've got a copy, that Donald Trump was going to win. Not many pollsters were saying this. 68%. He did a poll of Utah last night, of your constituents in Utah. They want President Trump acquitted. 64% oppose additional witnesses. 60% would be less likely to support you if you vote to keep the charade going and call for witnesses. And by the way, think about all those Democrats that are asking you to trust them. Think about who's begging for witnesses.
This poll is very interesting because it shows that the Utah people want this thing over, want you to support the president, want him to be acquitted, and if you're not going to do that and get more witnesses, they're probably not going to reelect you. They'll replace you. Think about that.
There he is, the compromised in this particular case, corrupt, and we all know congenital liar by the name of Adam Schiff. How can anyone in good conscience ever trust what is really a pretty despicable sociopath? Now, Schiff's pants have been on fire for 3 consecutive years. He's lied about Russia, collusion.
Okay, enough. See what else he has to say.
Witnesses that had either been interviewed by deposition in the House proceedings, grand jury proceedings, and it was specifically, those same people. New witnesses were not being called. Why would any Republican in the Senate want to break that precedent?
Well, look, I don't think there's any real reason to have any new people come in. That violates the whole point. This is not an inquiry into what happened in Ukraine. This is an impeachment trial. And in an impeachment trial, there's a very simple question. Are the allegations rising to the level that you would deprive the American people of the person they elected as president? Now, I don't think a single one of the Republicans believes that Donald Trump is going to be convicted. So I think it is an absolute game for any of them to vote yes to have more witnesses, because the witnesses aren't going to change anything. This is not an impeachable offense. We have a very good way of solving it. It's called an election, as you pointed out. In 279 days, the real jury, the American people, will get to decide. My hunch is they're going to reelect Trump by an amazing margin. But what Schiff said the other day was very chilling. He said, we can't let this up to the voters, because he's such an arrogant elitist. He thinks he's more important than the American people. And that's what's at stake here. And I would hope that after they think about it, that not a single Republican will vote to have any more witnesses.
We're
going to go further here just a second.
Respond to their fake news stories. They refuse to retract their fake news stories about me.
He says something really important here, and as he says, AT&T owns CNN.
About the dirty dossier, the bulk of information in the FISA applications, being Hillary Clinton's bought and paid for Russian dossier, and compared to Adam Schiff lied to the American people. Anyway, Congressman Nunes, thank you for telling the American people the truth, and I'm glad you've been vindicated.
Well, you're welcome, Sean, and there's more lies today that you just saw on the Senate floor. Let's just start with today he was complaining. So, he claims he doesn't know the whistleblower. Then he was talking about how his staff didn't really coordinate with the whistleblower. Now those stories are changing. Then he was whining about how his staff are being attacked by people out in the public. Now, remember what I always say. Whatever they accuse you of doing, they're actually doing. It was only a few weeks ago that Adam Schiff and his staff doxed my former staff and my current staff by publishing their phone records and texts and emails for Chuck Schumer's new best friend, Parnas, that he invited to the Senate today.
I want to tell you something. They also gave out messages from my staff. Am I allowed to sue for that? Because I think that is an invasion of privacy, and they didn't delete it. Is that?
Well, I think the question is AT&T that owns CNN, that, you know, once again,
AT&T who owns CNN.
And I'll just say they refuse to respond to their fake news stories. They refuse to retract their fake news stories about me and others. But AT&T has to answer that question, I think, at some point in court. And I know that they are being sued by Judicial Watch for just that. You know, they should have at least notified those of us whose phone numbers were going to be in the production of Adam Schiff's subpoena.
Let me go back. Apparently, Alan Dershowitz has just gotten up, and he has a question on the framers of the Constitution. Let's listen to him.
That were good enough for us during the Clinton impeachment, but seem to have changed dramatically in the current situation. The criteria that have been set out are so lawless, they basically paraphrase Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who said there is no law. Anything the House wants to do to impeach is impeachable. That's what's happened today. That places the House of Representatives above the law. We've heard much about no one's above the law. The House of Representatives is not above the law. They may not use the Maxine Waters. Gerald Ford made the same point, but it was about the impeachment of a judge. Judges are different. There are many of them. There's only one president. But to use that criteria, that it's whatever the House says it is, whatever the Senate says it is, turns those bodies into lawless bodies in violation of the intent of the framers.
We're going to end that here. We're going to look further. But he is absolutely correct. It's destroying the presidency and the Constitution at the same time, and the vote of the people. All on the same shot. All right, what's the news about Sidney Powell and General Flynn?
Of guilty, stating that he was coerced into pleading guilty because the special counsel then, Robert Mueller, was going after his son. So this is certainly big news. Now, Sidney Powell is stating that there was a conflict of interest with his previous attorneys. She's going to be taking them on as well in this motion. And just breaking hours ago, actually, the Department of Justice backtracked once again their request to the court. Just several weeks ago, the Department of Justice actually stated that they wanted to give prison time for Flynn. They requested up to 6 months. Now they're backing away from that again, saying that he had served his country honorably and that he should just be given probation. According to sources that I've spoken with, it seems like the Department of Justice prosecutors in this case are a little worried that that Flynn's motion to withdraw his guilty plea will actually go through, and that there could be a call for a new trial.
All right, getting interesting. We'll follow that.
Wow, that's great. And hopefully they'll get cold feet. Let him go, let him out. They don't want a new trial. They'll show all their crap and corruption.
We want justice. 33 years. We know between, oh, you don't need a lawyer, Andrew McCabe, and oh, I did something I wouldn't do or get away with. Comey in the Trump in the Bush or Obama administrations, but I'll do it to Trump. And we also have deep state bureaucrats. They are not the only ones caught up in their egregious dishonesty. Wow, look what we found. Adam Schiff being revealed yet again for the liar that he is. Look at what we found. A clip.
I'm not going there. I hate that guy with passion. Well, I guess I will go there. Shredding Bolton's credibility.
Given the history where we've had the politicization of intelligence over WMD, why we would pick someone who the very same issue has been raised repeatedly, and that is John Bolton's politicization of the intelligence he got on Cuba and on other issues. Why we would want someone with that lack of credibility, I can't understand.
Now, I also want to show you the other breaking news tonight. Now we have found tape that reveals what John Bolton describes the call with President Trump, the two calls exactly, and President Zelensky. It actually sounds almost verbatim, directly like President Trump's characterization of those calls. And, wow, warm and cordial. And, yeah, we got to deal with the issue of corruption in Ukraine. Take a look.
We're going to go past that.
Are the Republicans who don't like President Trump. And if they are the ones negotiating some sort of witness exchange program, then I think you're going to see a very unfair outcome for the president. So that's why we need to not have further witnesses. We need to adhere to the record with some sense of order and justice. And it will be a total free-for-all if additional witnesses now are called at this stage of the game, because you don't have, I think, a lot of confidence that these Republican senators will actually put Joe Biden, the whistleblower, and Hunter Biden in that witness chair. And that means the president won't have the ability to offer his full defense. It would have to be, but these Republican senators need to be warned. No deal without the whistleblower, Joe Biden, and Hunter Biden, period. Any other deal is a betrayal of the president.
You're forgetting Adam Schiff. He needs to be there, and his staff needs to be there. But the thing is, Congresswoman, if they bring in Joe and Hunter, and the president did mention him on the call, didn't call for an investigation, and the four facts remain the same. They did nothing. They announced nothing. They said they did nothing. They said they felt no pressure. All right, but now we have the issue, and I think when you get to the bottom of it, people that are in legal jeopardy right now are Joe and Hunter Biden. They should be in trouble. Congresswoman, last word.
Sure. So, Sean, I absolutely think we have heard everything we need to hear. It was Adam Schiff's choice not to call additional witnesses, not to call John Bolton. And because their case is so weak, it is because they are desperate. But when it comes to witnesses, if they open up this door, for sure, we are going to call Adam Schiff. We're going to call Hunter Biden, and we are going to call the whistleblower. This is not a game that Adam Schiff can determine who is the material witness and who is not. I have confidence that the Senate is going to make sure that we don't set this very bad precedent for the future. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you both. All right, what the media mob really thinks of we the people. We'll get into that next. Senate, now they're taking a break. Coming up, the pressure is getting to Joe Biden, and we've got the video evidence. Yes, angry again. Actually kind of pushed the guy.
Ridicule CNN again. They need to be sued big time.
Don't vote for me. Go find somebody else. And of course, the mob and the media playing defense for the pretty much all the extreme radical Democratic socialists, all while continuing to attack Trump 24/7 and Trump supporters. Twisted and unhinged, as always. Take a look.
Donald Trump couldn't find Ukraine on a map if you had the letter U and a picture of an actual physical crane next to it. He knows that this is, you know, an administration defined by ignorance of the world. And so that's partly him playing to their base and playing to their audience, you know, the credulous boomer Rube demo that backs Donald Trump, that wants to think that Donald Trump's a smart one and y'all elitists are dumb.
You elitists with your geography and your maps and your spelling, even though my
math and your reading.
Yeah, you're reading.
Okay, so Lemon last night, and by the way, we don't call for boycotts, firings like they do us, listen, Don, with all due respect, this is a half-hearted, non-apology, and sinking your credibility even further. If you're going to own it, own it. You laughed at all of it. You enjoyed all of it. Just a fact. Here with reaction, Tammy Bruce, Jason Chaffetz. Tammy, your reaction, because that didn't seem like an apology to me. That seemed like not stopping laughter, making fun of we the people. Well, those people, them lines, and, you know, really?
Yeah, this is why, as many have said, why Donald Trump is president. The American people saw this kind of ridicule and contempt throughout the political elite, throughout the media class, and we've had enough. This is not a one-off dynamic. This is really a bit of a snapshot on what the establishment does think of the average American, not even just Donald Trump voters, but they've convinced themselves that they're so much more superior, and they do it by ridiculing Americans like this. And when we see that, and already the GOP has made a commercial of this, it's online, it's pretty powerful, and at the end, it says they think you're a joke, prove them wrong, right, in November. And so this is really a made-for-Trump commercial. It is for anybody who had to be reminded about Hillary's deplorables comment. She wasn't a one-off. This is not a one-off. This is what they think about the American people, and it's why this reformation was necessary, and it's why they hate Donald Trump, because he actually likes us.
Well, yeah, pretty good point, too. Jason, I look at this tape now of John Bolton. He sounded just like Donald Trump describing the phone call with President Zelensky.
Didn't sound like there was anything wrong there. And if he did think there was something wrong, I think there's a duty and obligation to say so. But we can all read the transcript ourselves. How many times on this program have we highlighted the idea that Donald Trump did the unexpected and he just released the transcript? Everybody can go out and read there. You know what other big question is out there? I want the Democrats to answer. Who's the victim in all this? Where's the so-called victim? There is none. They have been working on this impeachment for 3 years. They've got nothing, and they are on the verge of embarrassing themselves. And I think it will be a bipartisan vote to acquit Donald Trump.
I hope so. Tammy, your reaction to that tape?
Yeah, I think that this is what people forget, of course, is that these audio tapes are forever. The Internet makes everything forever. In the old days, the establishment was able to maintain control by making sure we didn't hear things like that there wasn't a history. I think that Jason's right, of course, and the good news is that no longer, let's just say it's harder to gaslight the American people. We know what they're doing. The polls show that we don't like what's occurring here, and we've got to make our feelings known, of course, in November. But I think it's going to be fine, and I think the president's done, obviously, he's being saved by the fact that he's done a great job.
Thank you both. When we come back, Senate reconvening in moments to continue, even more of the Schumer Shift Sham show.
All right, we're going to end it here. There's already evidence that there's blowback on this impeachment trial, this hoax. And we're seeing it with people getting up in arms and getting involved in Republican politics, going towards the ballot and representing Republicans. We're going to see this replace Democrats that are already in office, and I believe we're going to get the Congress back as well. And then you're going to see the might and power of the presidency, Congress, and Senate go after a lot of the corruption and a lot of the crimes that have been committed in the Democrats' name and in the elite's name, and it's not going to be pretty. Kenish Rajmar from Billings, Montana. Good evening, and we will soon find out if this mess is all going to end. Some Democrats and Republicans are going to step up, get the 51 votes, and Trump is going to be no more witnesses, and Trump is going to be acquitted, or if this is going to be pushed out further, and there's going to be more damage done on the Democratic side because of this foolishness. I hope it doesn't go there. I hope it ends this week, but we'll soon find out by either Friday evening or Saturday evening. Good day.